Thank you for watching, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. It's a game that taught me how to read, and more importantly, it's a game that I always think about till this day. And we never got a sequel. We're never gonna get a sequel, unfortunately. Maybe I'm gonna jinx myself one of these days, but what we did get was Paper Mario and the Superstar Saga series. So today, I've already done Paper Mario. I thought, let's take a good look at Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Let's begin.
Yes! Fight!
In 2003, Nintendo was probably in a pretty weird place with regard to where to take their entry in their next series of RPGs involving Mario. Thousand Year Door, the sequel to Paper Mario, was still at least a year away, and even though the brand spanking new GBA basically allowed them to develop brand new, better looking SNES games on the go, we still had a problem. We never got a proper Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars sequel. And already enough, the whole Mario RPG thing was a super rare occurrence. The lack of a partnership with Squaresoft, now Square Enix, and the fact that the European audience probably wouldn't even know what the Super Mario RPG series even was, since it never was released there, probably didn't provide much of incentive for them to work together and develop some type of direct Super Mario RPG sequel. Instead, it seems like they opted to start fresh with a brand new, more stylized 2D RPG series that borrowed many of the fun mechanics that made the original so unique, while also cleaning them up, giving them a whole colorful new coat of paint, and boldly applying a custom Western localization to really capture and amp up the intended humor. Thus, our topic at hand today, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which, let me just say, the Superstar Saga aspect of the game, yeah, great title, except it sounds like it's a bunch of games in one. But the other ones make sense, so yeah, I'll let you have it, Nintendo. Now, these changes all seem to have worked, too. This game is widely loved by people, and even today, young hipsters playing for their first time on their vintage GBA micros would probably consider it one of the most definitive games on the console. As far as RPGs go, I'm pretty excited to complete this one, since as it's a simpler game meant for a wide appeal, everything, including the few side quests there are supposed to be incredibly straightforward. Admittedly, I've completed Bowser's Inside Story for the DS, and it made me want to go back and talk about all of the others in the series. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this will be a complete breeze. To give you a little taste, there's 175 of these things called hidden coffee beans that I'll need to find all over the world to get some important items from Professor EGAT, who apparently they were trying to make a thing outside of Luigi's Mansion for a while. He looks like a weird old Benjamin Button baby version of Jimmy Neutron. Still, this might be a game I can finish in one super clean playthrough, and if that's the case, hell yeah. I honestly don't have anything else to really say other than that. More than anything, I just love playing good games. And it's a rare week here on The Completionist where I know I'm going to be playing an awesome game that's also supposed to be pretty easy to complete. So I'm excited to just sit back, relax, and for the most part, enjoy. Yet I still feel unfulfilled. I still dream of a dream in which Super Mario RPG 2 is a thing. Most of the team who worked on the original did in fact go on and work on the Mario and Luigi series. So if that's what it is, then that's what it is. But we can still dream, can't we? Can't we? Like many of the Mario and Luigi games to come after, Superstar Saga introduces the Bean Kingdom as its unique yet perfectly Mario-y new realm, and its citizens, the Beanish, as its new race. As you probably already figured out, their thing is that they're shaped like these little cute neon green lima beans, and when the game starts, Princess Peach is receiving a gift from the Beanish Goodwill Ambassador and her faithful assistant at the castle in the Mushroom Kingdom. It turns out that these Beanish envoys are actually magical terrorists called Cacaletta and Fawful, who want to steal Princess Peach's beautiful voice and use it to control the magical Beanstar, which is said to grant wishes to its owner. With it, they will be able to conquer the Bean Kingdom, and then eventually, just like any other egotistical villain out there, the world. They succeed and kidnap the princess, and as you'd predict in a Mario RPG kind of game, Toad eventually goes to Mario and Luigi, who apparently have had time to line dry all their laundry by hand. I mean, I guess that makes sense because there's no washing machines in the Mushroom Kingdom, but yeah, I guess that makes sense. On their way, they happen to run into Bowser, who was also planning on kidnapping Peach. But when he realizes that, and this is straight up quoted from the instruction manual, chaos reigns when she opens her mouth, he decides the risk to his castle will be too great until she gets her voice back. So, Bowser agrees to help the bros get back her voice, so then he can kidnap her again and just continue the Mario cycle. This is just... I get it. Point is, Bowser's on your team again in this one. Who cares how it makes sense? It's just pretty cool. But between there and the final showdown for the Beanstar, a bunch of other cute, charming events take place. And I don't want to risk spoiling even a tiny bit of it, because as unrelated as a lot of it is to the larger story, Superstar Saga always has a very straightforward narrative. And in a move that was actually kind of rare in RPGs at the time, the large majority of the time you spend playing the game actually pushes the main plot forward instead of distancing you from it with huge grindy side quests that last hours and hours without anything but repetitive battle music and the first 6 seconds of the overworld theme. Plus, in a step beyond even the excellent Paper Mario before it, the characters and humor in this game are absolutely top-notch. Nowadays, we're used to clever in-jokes and tweetable lines in our all-new Nintendo games that come chock full of cool pop culture and memes of the day. But when Superstar Saga came out, it was probably one of the first games like this that Nintendo ever put out. And fun characters like Fawful and the sheer amount of times Luigi gets totally roasted in this game make the entire experience worth enjoying. However, that's not to say the game doesn't look the part either. Developer AlphaDream got the opportunity to make this because of how much Nintendo loved their first game, Japanese-only release, Tomato Adventure. And if you've even seen that game played, a lot of what makes it special is also right here in Superstar Saga. Big, rich sprites with nice fluid animations looking great on a tiny GBA screen. We've got a bulky Mario-themed interface that makes great use of the screen real estate as you switch between exploring the environments, chatting with NPCs, and fighting enemies. There's also a lot of variety when it comes to its landscapes, even though the game is relatively short. And each place comes complete with its own little vibe, going that extra little mile to make this admittedly ridiculous idea for a world feel satisfyingly textured and alive. Almost more like a Saturday morning cartoon than your average stuffy old melodramatic JRPG.
What are we gonna do?
If only I can get the meatball sandwich out of my pocket.
However, the game isn't totally perfect, as I sometimes found it hard to tell when something was hidden underground. And that weird is it 2D or isn't camera angle sometimes made it harder for me to judge exactly where I was jumping. But all in all, like most first-party GBA games, this one is a treat visually. And you shouldn't let these little nitpicks from me get in the way of enjoying the experience. Plus, if you're one of those people who listens to game music at full blast in their car like me, there's a pretty good mix of classic melodies and completely new songs here. And as short as the game is, they go a long way towards helping this little new Mario RPG series differentiate itself in tone from the others. I know I just said this a moment ago, but I really love the cartoony vibe and how the references to the older games work themselves in while still keeping the game feeling new. It makes the game feel cheeky rather than retro. And whether you're hearing that good old underground theme or you're meeting the viruses from Dr. Mario, it's always in a way you'd never expect. And even series mainstays like Bowser, when presented in this unique, cutesy style, have a lot more depth to offer than they do in other incarnations. In fact, I sometimes find myself taking the characterizations I saw in the RPGs and applying them to games where they're much less fleshed out. Doesn't imagining it's the Mario and Luigi Bowser that takes the cat power-up in Mario 3D World make it all that much cuter? And I know it's weird to say that the game really fits its hardware well when it's basically just an NES controller with shoulder buttons and a screen, but I truly believe it does, and though we're definitely going to talk about that more in the next section, I do want to call out one last thing that fits this theme perfectly. The closest thing to a gimmick that the Game Boy Advance ever had was its weird obsession with voice acting. Instead of the beeps and boops we remembered from classic versions, whenever a main Nintendo IP got a new GBA release, they'd use really compressed clips of voice actors from previous games. For example, for Link to the Past, they'd use voices from Ocarina of Time. Mario 3 would use clips from Mario 64. It was kind of a weird time, but with Superstar Saga, they used new recordings of Charles Martinet that really gave Mario and Luigi some new character.
Oh, yeah.
And although they never really spoke any real words, I feel like this was just one of the first real peeks we ever got at their true personalities together. Luigi comes to life here as the butt of a million jokes, much more than he ever did in Luigi's Mansion. And for that, you gotta give him props. It's pretty damn good. While Superstar Saga may seem short to JRPG enthusiasts, it doesn't feel short. There's a lot packed into this game that will keep you playing for hours on end. At the end of the day, Mario & Luigi is fun to try and talk about because on the one hand, there's a lot that classic RPG players will recognize. You walk around on a map, there's basic puzzles to solve, there's enemies to fight. The fights are all turn-based, and when you win fights, you get a little bit stronger. But now that I think about it, I guess I could be talking about Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga or talking about Final Fantasy 1. Who knows? The basics are pretty much the same. But on the other hand, when you actually look at how all these mechanics are implemented into the game and how the whole thing is kind of this beautiful evolution of what we started with in Super Mario RPG, that's when this really starts getting awesome. First of all, you're playing as both Mario and Luigi. I know, it's obvious. So while it never really gets as intense as, let's say, Super Mario World or Lost Levels, the actual world exploration itself does look and feel a lot like the platforming you'd see in a regular 2D Mario game. Granted, you do a lot more finding of objects and bringing them back to people who ask for them in this game, and you go to a whole separate battle screen whenever you jump on an enemy, but it's still more fun than walking around dungeons in most RPGs. And it gets to be doubly so when you consider the absolute coolest innovation this game has to offer: the active button pressing system from Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario. They took that and then split it between the two brothers between the A and B buttons. You move together everywhere you go since there's obviously only one D-pad on the Game Boy Advance. And while you can only jump at first, eventually this also extends to things like swinging hammers, spin jumping over big gaps, and shooting fire and lightning out of your hands. You can switch through all these abilities on the fly at any given moment, which makes it fun to explore and makes early areas worth coming back to once you have more powers. But what's even more interesting is that all of this also extends into battles. A lot of the abilities you can earn transfer into special attacks you can use on the battlefield, and while the mechanics are turn-based, the Mario as A, Luigi as B system applies here as well. Pushing the right button at the right time makes it possible to do more damage, or even avoid taking damage from certain enemy attacks. And you can even team up for short button pressing minigames as part of Special Brothers team-up combos. And while the inputs are always simple to perform and easy to understand, the game has tons of satisfying depth if you're willing to put in that extra effort. And the more I think about it, the more this makes a lot of sense. On the one hand, Mario games need to be appealing to a younger crowd of gamers who need an accessible game for their portable console that's still fun in short grind-free bursts. That's why you have simplified things like attacks and bro points instead of spells and MP, and short bite-sized quests instead of, well, you know, the gold chocobo. But on the other hand, hardcore gamers love Mario too, and they're always looking for something to master. So for them, in a game this short, I think perfecting these timed mechanics and learning all the enemy-specific patterns pretty much qualifies here. Other than this, all there really is jumping around and collecting items on a map, and a few basic arcade-style minigames, which you can often go back and get an extra item or something from, but like many RPG minigames, they're more annoying than they are a welcome break from the grind. And since there's almost no grinding necessary in this game anyway, the payoff from this almost feels worth... Wait a second. Is that Gino? Is that really Gino right there? Doing absolutely nothing in a crappy little arcade minigame? And he just teaches you how to tilt a thing. That's really all they're using Gino for. Breathe. Breathe. It's not the first time. It's not the first time. He's in Smash. I'm okay with that. You can play as him in Smash. That's fine. Here's my QR code for those of you guys out there who want to play as my Gino. That's cool. We're good. We're good. We're good. At the core of it, the game is really fun and much more story forward than most RPGs, especially for a portable, which is cool. It's great at making basic mechanics feel fresh, and the 2-button AB mechanic is very clever both inside and outside the battle screens. But while I feel like it was totally successful in battles and kind of immediately set the standard of the series going forward in that sense, on the world map, because of all the powers you get, you need to constantly be switching from them to use them in the main world. It can be a little confusing and tedious at times to be switching not only which characters in the front, but also which jump to use, while then also remembering to switch back to a neutral jump for both characters when you need them. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, the mechanic is promising, and it often works great, but overall, it kind of comes off just a little bit clunky. But then there were like 4 games after it, and it just gets better and better each time. So, for 2003, and a Mario RPG that wasn't a Mario RPG, I'd say altogether, that's pretty dang good. Honestly, the only thing that was truly even close to a problem were the last couple of bosses because they were way harder than anything else in the game, and it required me to grind for a little bit. But compared to the amount I would grind out, let's say, in a game like Final Fantasy 15, this was a cakewalk. And after an hour or so, I was able to beat the game no problem.
Yeah, plus the ending actually makes sense.
Ted?
What?
What did I tell you about starting flame wars in the comments?
I just think it causes an uproar, and uproar is good for business.
Good for business? How'd you even get in my office? Why are you in this episode?
I live here.
No, you don't. You're a plot device. You are a plot device for me to murder every now and then.
That's it?
That's it. That's all you are to me, Ted. Don't start that fake crying crap. Aside from just playing through the main story and doing a couple of side extra mini-games and fetch quests to get stuff like rare items and extra mushrooms, which I was able to do completely in about 45 extra minutes of playtime, the only 2 things worthy of talking about in regards to Completionists are specifically Professor Egad's coffee bean search, which I talked about briefly earlier, and a short quest for Har Hall's pants. I guess he's supposed to be based off of Andy Warhol, which explains his love for splarting on shirts, but once you beat the version of the game that gets you a Beanstar fragment as part of the main story, you can go back and do it again and again and again to get all the different shirt designs. And when you do, you'll get Hard Hall's pants. There's 28 different combos, and I know it sounds rightly like it might be a little tedious, but in the end, the whole thing took me like 15 minutes, so I really don't have that much to worry about. Even the beans, of which you needed to collect 175 of all different varieties to please Professor Egad, and get some items, including his creepy Game Boy Horror SP. It was all pretty simple once I unlocked the surfing game island to grind for the beans. And even if I'm over-guessing, it probably only took me at most 2 hours total out of the 15 it took me to beat the game. And yeah, maybe I didn't have exactly huge amounts of fun actually earning the items, but the items themselves are awesome and are actually impactful on the gameplay by giving you things like a floating jump with an Excite Spring, or the ability to get rare items every time with the Game Boy Horror. It's as if the awesome Some game designers at AlphaDream read a list of features that every classic RPG has and then redesigned it from the ground up to have as much polish and fun as possible. And yeah, maybe it's because I am the completionist, but more than anything, shattering the idea that a good RPG has to be super long was the best of a game that was excellent at every turn. In my completionist playthrough of Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, there were 28 bosses defeated, 70 collectible Woo Beans, 35 Who Beans, 35 He Beans, 35 Chuckle Beans, 7 blends for EGAD to taste for 7 special prizes, 0 deaths, a total playtime of 15 hours, 4 minutes, and 35 seconds, and dozens and dozens of great moments with Fawful the Awful Falafel. This game was just a peaceful, relaxing time, like a lazy river at a water park. You know, except without the pee.
Whoa, people pee at water parks?
Ted, just quick sidebar from the episode. We got to the end, you know, just I'm glad you're here, just so we can have this little mini interview for a second. Why do you keep showing the up in these videos for no reason? Like, what is inspiring you just to freaking appear out of no reason in my videos, Ted?
I thought you could use a celebrity feature on the episode.
Get out of my office. A celebrity feature? What do you do, Ted?
I'm a big member in the podcast, and I stream on Twitch. I'm pretty big.
You're
I'm
a
Beard
part
Bros.
of my circuit. Get out of here.
I'm a Beard Bro.
Get out of here. End of the video. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is a wonderful game that I cannot recommend enough to anyone who is trying to play a game on the go. If you have a Game Boy Advance SP or a Game Boy Advance, or you have a Wii U, you can download the game digitally. You have to play this game at some point. It is a must play. It's not very big, but it's big enough to keep you going for quite a while. In regards to completing the game, it's not that difficult, and yeah, you don't really get anything for it, but RPGs are the kind of game that aren't about necessarily going to the end to get the 100% thing, so much as the journey itself. And the cast and characters in this game just kind of bring everything together to kind of make you enjoy the experience from start to finish. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of Complete It.
Complete it!
That's all the time we have for today, guys, so please, as always, let me know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. A little bird told me recently that thumbsing up comments and videos and stuff like that is actually important again. So, if you like the show, you like what you saw, you enjoy what we do here on the channel, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, comment below what game you want to see me do next in the Mario RPG franchise. Do you want me to go on to Paper Mario, another one, or maybe dip back into Mario and Luigi? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new here and you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and make sure the bell is on to get all your notifications. And if you missed last week's video, you can check it out right below the little box that I'm in. Oh man, what was last week's episode? Tell me what it was. Someone. Lego Pirates. I like the 5th movie. It was pretty good. The 4th was still bad. The 5th was not as good as the first 3, but it's a step in the right direction. See you guys next week. If you're still here, thank you. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.